and created a PowerPoint. There was already one created, honestly, and I updated it. So I'll just, what I wonder, but sometimes it's easier if if you grab me when I'm explaining something, and then I can explain it further.
Sure.
So yeah. Okay, let's go. So there's the jail. That's all you guys know. It's been painted, actually. It doesn't look like that. So kind of a very brief overview is that we provide mental health services to inmates in the custody of the Sheriff's Department. I don't know if everybody knows, but services are voluntary, and we do get a lot of calls from family members who are, of course, worried for their loved ones. But the truth is that they are adults and they get to volunteer and say yes or no if they want services. So even if we think maybe they need them and we try to talk them into it, they have a right to say no. So our goals are to facilitate stabilization, support their wellness and recovery, and then prevent adverse outcomes, such as deteriorating mental conditions. And the ultimate, of course, is suicide prevention. So we do work with the clients to create a discharge plan. We're focusing a lot on discharge planning now, because it's all about if there's good discharge plans and clients get linked in the community, they might not come back. What we find is the folks who we don't link successfully keep returning to the jail, and that we do not want. We work with the sheriff. We work with WellPath, which is the medical provider. And so the three of us together kind of wrap services around the clients. So some of the services that we offer is screening so I don't know if all you guys know that there's a lawsuit against the jail, and the legal team that is suing the jail are suing all of the jails one at a time or two at a time all throughout California. They're not looking for money. They're only looking for better services for the clients. So it does sound odd, but we're extremely happy for this lawsuit because it's allowing us to do what we've all wanted to do, which is offer better services. So one thing we're trying to do is do a mental health screening on every single inmate who walks in the door. So then we can catch them. What we used to do is relied on the medical screeners to send us a referral. So now we're the ones putting eyes on them, on clients walking in. And there's a lot who don't want services, obviously, and don't need them. And then there's other folks who are happy that we're there. Some of them are on medication, so we bridge their meds so that they don't miss a day without meds. So we do, a lot of suicide prevention interventions. We are now 24/7 in the jail. So AFBH has been there from 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. for a very long time. And this last year, we have contracted out so that there's, with telecare, so they have staff from 11 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. So we actually have staff on site at the jail 24/7. So that's a big change that we're happy about. We can do, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, good.
There is a question, and that is, what is involved in a mental health screening?
Okay, that's a good question, actually. So there's the screening, and then there's what we call kind of a full-blown assessment. So the screening, we do ask, any suicide questions. Are you on meds? We talk about, we question, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at with depression? Where are you at with anxiety? Have you ever been, are you in services? Have you been in services? We ask a question, have you been sexually assaulted? Did you get services? Sometimes somebody may appear slow, so we can ask, were you ever in special ed as a kid? Because we're trying to get as much information as possible. And the point to the screening is, and before we screen them, so we have what's called our booth. We look them up on our records to see if they've ever been open to us. So we have an idea, is there a history there? And we also are able to look on the sheriff's database to see how often they've been coming in and out of the jail. So before we meet with them, we have some ideas of where they've been housed and if they've been in and out of John Thorpe, so we can get some history. So the point to this initial screening is, do they meet our criteria to receive services? And if they don't, or if they don't want them, then we actually send them a letter saying, we interviewed you, you don't meet criteria, or you told us you don't want services. But here, if you want, and if you change your mind, send this letter back with an explanation, and then we'll give, we'll meet you again. Does that answer?
That was from Barbie. I wonder if I could just take a second. Anyone who is not on mute, please do mute your audio, just so our speaker can be able to have that.
Ellen, this is Barbie, and yes, you answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbie. There is another question. It all ties in. Will this impede your presentation, or is this okay?
No, this is good.
Okay, great. Yes, okay. I am going to mute anyone that I see that may not be muted. Okay, so okay, the next question is, hang on here, let's see, there we go. And how does mental health screening work with someone who doesn't want to talk but appears psychotic?
Yeah, and that happens. And also, we are literally inside the intake. So they're just brand spanking new to the jail. So a lot of people also are on drugs. So it depends is my answer. Normally, if somebody's coming into the jail and they appear pretty psychotic, likely they will have history with Alameda County Behavioral Health Services at some point. So we always do a quick look through their record. And if they are and they don't want it, then we on our form, we still say make an appointment, so that we will then approach them a second time and try and do a screening when they're not, coming into the jail is scary. It's frustrating. People are upset and angry. So a lot of times it's not the best time to do a mental health screening, but we certainly can negate people who really clearly don't want services and probably don't need them. But somebody like that, I've had that. I sit in the booth and do assessments. And for me, I make an appointment for them anyway. We look back and see if some folks we can tell they were on meds when they were at the jail. So if they only left within 30 days, we can get their medication started right away, even to just get it ready and offer them the meds. So, yeah.
That last part to this whole topic area is, did the screening continue throughout the pandemic?
Oh yeah, we were on the jail. Yeah, my team is at the jail every day and has not stopped the whole pandemic. We actually started this process of the booth during the pandemic. So yeah, we've still provided all the services. The numbers went down in the jail, so in some ways it made it easier for us to start a new program.
Thank you.
So just a few other things. I mean, this is just some of the services. If a client goes to court and is acting maybe symptomatic of mental health issues, the judge can order us to do an evaluation, and it's on a form. It's called a 4011-6. So we'll get call from the court saying, hey, the judge is very worried about this person. Can you make sure you see them when they come in the afternoon? So we do that. And then often they want to report, so then we'll type up a report and send it to the judge. You know, obviously symptom management, a lot of medication. Most of our clients are on medication, case management, and then some discharge planning. So this, a lot of folks are curious how we're the same as your outpatient clinic and how they're different. So this is just because we are the jail, Santa Rita Jail, AFBH is considered an outpatient clinic. It sounds kind of funny, but we are the biggest outpatient clinic in Alameda County. So, yeah.
And I apologize for jumping in
No,
again.
you can interrupt me.
There's a black box covering a lot of the right-hand side. I'm not sure.
Let's see. I don't know how to get rid of it. Oh, wait. Does that help?
Okay, that does.
Okay, there we go.
And okay, and there's another question, but I'll wait
Okay.
for that because that's more generic. So okay.
Okay.
Can we
So
ask
just-
questions as we go, or should we just type the question?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna put it in the chat.
Okay, good.
So just, and you know, some of the things that are the same is it's voluntary. Moderate to severe is the Alameda County Behavioral Health and Medi-Cal standard. Obviously, we handle crises. We cannot force medication. We cannot force treatment. We have psychiatrists, clinicians. A lot of our clients obviously treat also in the community. We do assessments, treatment plans. We can do conservatorship referrals. We don't do them very often. I mean, it's usually somebody else has started it, and then our docs help out by filling out some of the forms, but we don't initiate LPS referrals. Some of the differences, we do not bill Medi-Cal. So in not billing Medi-Cal, we don't have to worry about their income. We don't have to worry about if they're on Medi-Cal. We can treat mild to moderate. So folks who would not qualify for Medi-Cal services in the county, in the community, we can still see them. We can 5150 people in custody. And then just some of the basics, obviously providing services in a jail, sometimes cell side is not the norm for community folks. And then just how much we have to work closely with the sheriff's department. And then everybody has an electronic health record. WellPath has one, the sheriff's department has one, and we have one. So it's a lot of information when we have access to all of them. So that's just some kind of differences.
Okay, so there are a couple of questions here. They're starting to stack. First one is there a psychologist or psychiatrist on staff 24/7? They
are on call 24/7.
Okay.
So yes and no. Yes, they're on staff every day. And then there is psychiatrists on call all through the night.
Okay, the next question, they're just two more. Are all the medications oral or are there injectables?
There is injectables.
Okay. And do you give everyone a TB shot? Tuberculosis shot. Yeah.
Right. So when they come in, WellPath, obviously it's WellPath, the medical providers who do it. So they do require a TB shot, and now they require COVID testing. If they refuse, I know they go into the kind of the hospital wing, and then if they're concerned, they're refusing due to mental health reasons, we go and talk to them. And some people just don't want to take the test. So after a certain amount of time, they WellPath doesn't keep asking them. So
Okay. I'm going to wait till a few more stack up here. Go for it.
We're working like a team now, Marcia.
Yeah, I know.
So this is administratively, you know, and some of this won't have anything to do with you guys, but there's certain systems that all of the county clinics use, and we use those. We get a lot of record requests, mostly from attorneys, that we process. The difference is our volume. On the average, we process almost 1,600 referrals a month. And I mean, that's just pretty phenomenal. We open and close over 700 episodes each month. And on average, they process about 85 record requests. So we also, because we're in the jail, there's a lot of other systems involved. So the Sheriff's Department works with the American Correctional Association for, it's a, what is it called? I want to say it's a, it's like an award. And to keep this level of bragging rights, there's a lot they have to do that the ACA demands, and the sheriff, I wish I could think of the way. Anyway, it's.
Daria, you said a minute and you're going to finish your food. You're going to eat. Go eat.
Also.
Sit down.
Please mute your audio. Hello, whoever is on.
Sorry, my apologies. I thought it brought me in muted. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
So there's a lot of audits. There's a PREA audit. There's a Department of Justice audit, public health audit that we have to go every 2 or 3 years. And this, who do we serve? Basically everybody, you know, adults, males, females, transgender, county, out of county, federal clients, where there is a contract so that guys who work with the marshals and our federal clients can end up in our jail. Severely mentally ill, mild to moderate. We have high profile clients. A lot of clients are high risk for suicide. So here's some numbers, and Marcia, just stop me whenever and ask questions.
Sure. I actually, before you start that, if this is okay, I've got a whole number of questions here that are kind of interrelated to this point. At least I hope they are. Are inmates with vast mental illness histories get placed within the general inmate population, or are they separated?
They are separated. We have some houses, they're called, we call them BHI, so behavioral health inmates. Then for men, we have a whole house that's housing unit 9, and severely mentally ill males go there. For females, it's 24, but it's about a third of a house. And that's where our female BHI clients go. There are, I mean, if those are severely mentally ill, we see clients all throughout the jail, but they're more stable. But the ones who need more help, they're in our BHI houses.
Okay. Let's see, kind of pull this down here. Okay, let's see. Are they ever required to be with it? Okay, I'm not sure. It's accessed or assessed. Was it intended? Let's see, Sandra Leon, were you intending to say assessed or accessed?
Assessed.
Assessed?
Assessed. Are they? Yes, please.
Okay, okay. So are they ever required to be assessed?
By us?
No, I'm sure you guys are not requiring that. How, when is it that they get assessed?
So
How are they required to do that? Can you hear me?
yeah, so I'm not sure I understand the question, but so we get the screening when they come in the door, and then they get a second appointment, and at that second appointment, the clinician will kind of fill out the assessment. So kind of expand it. So any of the questions that were not asked in the screener, you know, that there's not a lot of psychosocial, not a whole lot of personal history or some family history, but not in depth because you're really doing a screening. So that assessment comes, usually the fuller assessment comes at the next appointment.
Do you guys look at the AB, do you guys look at the AB 1424, even if it's sent?
I don't know what
And
an
family
AB
history? Oh, okay. That's from NAMI, the AB 1424. It's a family history.
It's not
I-
NAMI.
It's a department generated form. It's
Yeah,
a department generated form. It gives a history, a family history.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I have not seen one, but if we received one, then it would, yeah, we would look at it and then it would be scanned into their file.
Ellen, I'll send you a copy of one. What it
Yeah,
looks like.
that'd be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Ma.
And I'll give all you guys my email address so that if you have other questions too, or if any of you have family members who are in there want to send it, that would be fine. Because any
Oh,
information,
awesome.
yeah, no, any information we get is helpful to us to provide services. You know,
Okay, let's move on because we got a lot of questions here. So we understand that at least 7 suicides have taken place this year. Were they in the health jail unit?
there was not 7 suicides.
Did-
Not 7 suicides. So in 2020, we had 0. In 2021, so far, we've had 2. So I'm not, there might have been 7 deaths. There was a recent death this weekend that was, the last couple, my understanding is they were, there's been some natural deaths and some overdose deaths. But only 2 intentional suicides.
Were those in the mental health jail unit?
You know what, I'm not, I have to think about that. I'm going to say no, I don't think they were, but I don't want to mislead you. Look, I'd have to look that up and I can let you guys know.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate that.
think the answer is no, though.
Yeah, we've been told that there were 7. That figure went before the Board of Sues. So I don't know.
Yeah, not suicides. There might have been 7 deaths, though.
So
Thank you.
given the fact that you said overdose, is it fair to say that the drugs are easily found in jails? Or it's not
Drugs are
that easy?
Drugs are definitely in jails. Yeah. Drugs and alcohol, they make Pruno. And yeah, people sneak drugs in. Any jail in the world, people get drugs if they want drugs. Yeah.
Okay, let's get the next question here. Thank you. It says, about what % of those who appear to you to need an evaluation cooperate with having one?
I would say most. I'd say most. Even some uncooperative clients that I've spoken to, I can still get information out of them usually. The really uncooperative ones are honestly more kind of gang affiliated guys or young men. So I would say most of the time they cooperate.
Okay. Which units are set up for the mental health inmates?
So housing unit 9 is the BHI house. There's other houses so the way we do it is there's some that are classed into what's called administrative separation by the sheriff's department because they're various reasons. Some are violent. Some are placed in protective custody. There's different classifications. So if they have to stay in their house and they're not allowed to walk out around in the jail, then we go in and see them. So we staff the house, but it's not technically a mental health house. The mental health house is 9 and 24 for the females.
How does the cycle stop if the client is refusing to be assessed?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for us. It's really frustrating for families. So again, it kind of depends. We keep trying to engage. So we keep going in and talking. Some, depending on the level of symptoms, you know, some of the guys who don't want to meet with us end up in Napa. Some just do their time and leave, and often they come back. So it is extremely frustrating, but you can't make people, you know, do mental health services. You just can't make them.
Okay,
Hey,
I
Dawn.
see. Hold on a minute here. I see Michelle from FERC, and hi, Michelle. It looks like the note was inmates forms, or were you asking?
So we were talking about the AB 1424 forms, but there is
Oh,
but there is an inmate form that we send to the psychiatric part of the facility. So maybe I'm wondering if Ms. Dunn receives or knows that they look at those forms. It's a one-page form.
So I think I may have seen one in 3.5 years. I don't work the clinic all the time. I have a supervisor who works the clinic, which is probably where they would go. We usually get most of the mail that comes to us first. So I can find out. I know I will say it is not frequent that we get them.
I usually fax them to the psychiatric part unit so we're wondering if that is actually happening.
Well, yeah, I wonder what the psychiatric unit means, because the housing unit, we would never get anything that goes to the ACSO. We may or may not get it. So I will write myself a note and then send Marcia. There's fax numbers and phone numbers that come directly to us. So that would be my concern, is where's it going?
Yeah, you can send it to me. The only thing is, I'm trying to keep track of who is wanting what, and for most of you attending, I don't have a contact information, and I'll have to think this out. So maybe by the end of tonight, I'll come up with an answer if anyone has a good idea. Okay, so now, okay, I mean, I'm skipping yours for now because I want to, and actually I can answer that for you or guide you on that one. So you mentioned, another question, you mentioned more discharge planning going on. What kind of evaluation, if any, have you been able to conduct of the impact / success of that planning?
So I'm going to talk a little more about discharge planning later. So if we want to hold on to that.
Yeah, we'll hang on to that. Okay, so I'm through that set of questions, and we've got an interested group here, which is phenomenal.
I appreciate it. I mean, I'd rather answer your questions because the information I'm bringing may or may not be helpful. So if I can answer questions, I'm fine with that.
Great, thank you.
So hopefully this is interesting to you guys, just sort of what the numbers show. So it's almost 20% women. It has been 20% women, I think up until COVID, because I looked through the numbers, and I mean, it's only 1% less, but I just think it's interesting, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but I thought that was interesting. The other thing, 38% African-American, approximately 17% white. So the numbers that say 8% Hispanic, that is incorrect. So they are not asked, and it is being changed. It's not our form, it's an Alameda County form. So they don't specify Hispanic. So the 29% other are unknown. A good portion, if not most of those, are going to be Hispanic folks. So I think the numbers are much closer to 30, 29 and 8, 37%. Later on, oh yeah, primary language where it says 2%, that's also that is not correct. Again, it's some of the forms, especially when they're coming into the jail, they're in English. And some folks, especially Latino guys that are afraid of, being sent out of the country, are not always copying to their nationality. So, so these numbers, I think, especially with the Hispanic and the Spanish speakers, those are incorrect. The rest are good numbers. So just quickly, I did some numbers yesterday. The daily census yesterday was 2,023 at the jail. And we had approximately 800 open cases, which is, I did the numbers, is about 40%. So around 40% of the inmates at the jail are open to us. Around 700 openings, around 1,400 that we serve every month. The last 12 months, there was 4,119. We opened over 7,000. So that just shows you the folks that are coming in and out multiple times. The average time with us is about 6 months. So when we did this presentation for another place, one of the questions was, who do you serve? And we get that a lot, actually, is tell us who your typical clients are. So we made up some clients that are not one person, they're a few people, but these are very much some of our typical clients. So, first one is a 42-year-old Caucasian male, schizophrenic, in and out of the jail. They don't commit. So, and this is very typical. When they're out in the community, they don't connect, using substances, homeless, internally preoccupied, often arrested. And usually a lot of times they're not really heavy-duty charges. It could be shoplifting, or sometimes there's fires, but arson, but it's not really arson. It's just a fire to keep warm. But those are our cyclers that we really want to stop with our better discharge plans. We have clients in crisis. There's a 22-year-old African-American female under the influence of crystal meth. Multiple attempts at self-harm, multiple John George runs. There's about 15 to 20% are considered TAY, which is transitional age. So that's 18 to 25. And those are the folks that do a lot of kind of suicidal behaviors. And some of it is just, as you guys, anyone who has kids know, that their little brains are not developed yet. So their impulse control is not all that good. So a lot of head banging, a lot of kind of attempted hanging, a lot of swallowing, crazy things to swallow. We have definitely transgender. So they are housed according to their biology and not according to how they identify. So there's a lot of conversations around that. When we have folks that truly identify as female, or maybe transitioning, and they're stuck in an all-male house. So there's a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety that goes along with folks that are really stuck with people who to them are the opposite gender. We do get our fair share of high-profile clients. So if you see a high-profile murder, shootings, they're gonna be with at Santa Rita Jail. And we do consider that a risky client for suicidality. Risk factors with high profile clients are, a loss of status, change in lifestyle. Oftentimes families are embarrassed, certainly for sex crimes. They often will not talk to the person. Wives and husbands file for divorce. They're afraid to go to prison. They're used to being, some folks used to having money and notoriety and admiration from people. And when they fall, that's a really, really high risk for suicide. And then, then we have, again, some of these folks, 18-year-old. Dad said the child turned paranoid, delusional, attacked him for no reason. Dad wonders if he's on drugs, but it's not known. So somebody like this, we would think either drugs or maybe they're having a break. Around 18, it makes sense. And you got to kind of tease out, is some of this psychosis and behavior about drug use, or is it about psychosis? So this is just kind of where we provide services and what we do. So ITR is intake, transfer, and release. So we have that staff. That's where we have staffing 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And that's where we have a booth where we do our intake screenings. The bubble is outside of the jail, right when it's a lobby. We call it the bubble. And so if somebody gets arrested and they get brought in, immediately WellPath nurses they do their own medical screening. Occasionally, if they have any concerns about mental health, they'll call us, and one of our staff will go out there and do a brief assessment. And our staff can say, no, they're really unstable. You need to take them to John George. And then OPD or whoever brought them in has to take that client to John George. And then they get stable at John George and then come back. In ITR, they respond to every crisis, all the crises all throughout the jail. So if somebody's in a housing unit having a crisis, that deputy will call ITR and one of the staff will go out and talk to that person. And then they do bridge meds when somebody comes into the jail. Our admin does what all admins do. They maintain files, process paperwork, they schedule appointments. They're kind of our backbone. There's also clinicians who are assigned to the housing units. So they go out to see clients in the housing unit. So there's tables out in the day room. And so they'll sit at the tables and meet with the client. Or if a client refuses to come out, they'll go all the way up and go to the cell to make sure the client's okay. Basically in the housing units, we go out there, we see severely mentally ill, administrative separation, like I said before, because they can't come down to see us. Psychiatrists are there Monday through Saturday, and then they're on call the rest of the time. They do medication evaluations, monitoring, support. If we find out somebody's being discharged, they'll get the discharge meds ordered. What we've been trying to do is when clients come in, ask them, where do you get your psychiatric meds? Where do you go pick them up? And then we put that in our records. So if they get out prior to us knowing, sometimes they'll go to court and they get released and we don't know about it. Then we can still send the prescription to the CVS pharmacy near them where they want to go. The other place we offer services is our clinic. So for clients that are able to mainline, so that means they can walk around, they're safer, they're much more mild to moderate. They could come up and see us in the clinic. And so then it's a private office and it's brief therapy and medication management. But the clients who are more disturbed and are not able to walk out through the jail, we go see them. And I thought it might be good. So that's a picture of a housing unit. It's a pod. So you can see, if you can see, you can actually see people looking out the window. So on that's glass, what you're looking at. So from where we're looking in, there's a day room on the outside, and that's where we see clients. And then if they refuse, then we go inside that pod and upstairs or wherever and talk to them at the door. Do you want to take a break? Do you have questions?
I want to go back to, there is one question I skipped over just to keep with the same theme, but this question is, what percentage of population is considered mentally ill, moderate, and SMI?
We do not have those numbers. We are working on that. I will share, I think in the next screen or two, some of the changes around the lawsuit, and some of the changes are additional staff, and that's something that's really important to us to have better data so that we can, with better data, we can provide better services. Now, I know I might have skipped it, but I think it's 30, maybe 37%. No, I think it's higher.
Please mute. There we go. Go ahead and mute. Okay. All right.
I think it's maybe it's 57% or 67% that are on medication of our clients. Now some of that is sleep meds. So we are looking into that data. We're working with QA, our quality assurance, on how to separate out the different levels of needs so that we're making sure we're capturing certainly the severely mentally ill guys.
Okay, a comment from Michelle at FERC is the fax numbers being used for the inmate form is, do you have access to the chat box on your screen? That's okay. But there's a number here, 925-803-8008. If you, is that a number that you'd want, or?
So let me give you guys a phone number. Let me give you a phone number right now, and you guys can write it down.
Okay.
It is our supervisor number, and like FERC, you can call tomorrow, and somebody will respond to you. So it's 925 803-7221. And then I'll give you guys mine since if you're writing it down. So mine is 925-560-5947. So either one of those, if I can get you good fax numbers. I don't know what they are offhand, and I don't have my stuff with me.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
I also wanted to note that Lisa Deweese, also from FERC, has just put up a family guide inmate medication information PDF if anyone has access to their chat.
That's the
and
actual
download
form that we're talking about that we're faxing to you. So it's the actual form. I linked it and it shows fax number on the bottom.
Okay.
So that's what we were questioning.
I'll look. I should be able to look at it after this when I can get my chat.
And one last question here in this group. It says, what role, if any, do groups play in therapy? How has the pandemic interfered with the groups, and what's the plan going forward in that area?
So we have recently started groups. So the pandemic, it's kind of interesting because we were working on it ourselves, and we had a plan and we had people to volunteer, and then the pandemic hit. Right around the same time, some clinicians who had been with us for a long time were felt very vulnerable to the COVID. So they ended up retiring. So we had a slew of people leave. So our staffing, where normally we can have 20 clinicians, we were down to about 8. I think it was 8.5. So we couldn't do groups. But so we contracted it out. So now Telecare, which is a community-based organization, comes in and does groups. In a way, the pandemic stopped us from doing it, but then we contracted it out. And so those guys are coming in 7 days a week doing groups. Right now, they're doing them in the male and the female BHI houses. And they're doing, I think they're doing 2 a day, 7 days a week. So groups are so effective. So we're really happy. And it's going to be expanded, but right now, we're just really delighted that we're getting 2 groups a day.
And I'm hoping by the end of the talk, we could get, I'll try to get your, or if someone could volunteer and put the phone numbers on the chat, just in case someone wants to capture it in that format. So that'd be the supervisor's number and your number. So
Right.
that would be forever appreciated. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. And that's the end of those questions, sets of questions. So.
Okay, so somebody had asked about discharge coordination. So some of what, again, some of this we have been doing and some of this is new. So treatment-wise, we have recently contracted with Felton, which is a community-based organization. And so what they're doing is the program is 4 months long, and it's to link clients as they leave Santa Rita to longer term services. So they can pick them up right now with COVID. So one thing that did change with COVID is people are not allowed in the jail. These community-based organizations are not allowed in the jail. I think the attorneys are doing everything by phone and by tablet. So, so places that used to come in and they could meet with the clients in the jail, they could pick them up when they left, that kind of just died. So Felton is not allowed to come into the jail, but they do receive, we give them referrals, and they are allowed to collect phone calls. So they're trying to build relationships while the clients are still in the jail. They can help them get their driver's license, get their Medi-Cal renewed, get their medication and get them set up in the community, and then link them to longer term services. So it's a really good program. The current treatment providers, they contact us or we contact them, and it's in our electronic health record. If somebody needs more care, then they can get a full service partnership, which is psychiatric, it's case management, it's clinicians, it's housing, it's a really kind of a wraparound type program. The clients used to have to call Access, but Access has given me authorization to approve clients for full service partnerships. And we contract with 2 organizations that just work with our clients in the full service partnership. We now have some substance abuse treatment in the jail. So Centerpoint does assessments and decides level of care and makes referrals. But we have a new options recovery was allowed in the jail prior to COVID, and they do medication assisted treatment. So that's for opioid abuse, and have now also incorporate other substance abuse treatment. They are only allowed in our clinic, so they can only get inmates who can walk up to the clinic. So some of the high need clients, the BHI clients, the ADSEP clients are not at this moment able to get services. They do, all of the clients, I I didn't say this, but all of the inmates get tablets. So they can wake up in the morning, they pick up a tablet, they have it all day before they go to bed, they give it back at night. So they can make phone calls. There's tons of stuff. Khan Academy, I don't know if any of you guys know that. They can take classes online. So one thing they can do is work with options and do some substance use treatment online. So Medi-Cal, you know, it's a problem because they shut it off after 30 days. So the Felton program, Access, we have a health insurance technician that works in downtown Oakland. So they all help us to get clients linked when they leave. Social Security, we make referrals to help a lot of the clients link up with HAC, which is Homeless Action, and BELA, which is Bay Area Legal Aid, to link clients to Social Security. We have a couple of ways to get them housing. Casa de la Vida is a house downtown Oakland, a really cool Susan Morgan house. And I think there's 13 beds and 11 are ours of reentry, jail reentry, and there's 11 beds and 9 are our jail reentry. So it's specifically for clients who have been in jail and they need housing is what's bringing them back in. Voc Rehab used to be able to come in, had to leave with COVID. We're now working with them to see if we can have specifically a vocational rehab counselor on our discharge team. So part of the lawsuit, and I think that might be, let me see if it's in the next one. No, part of the lawsuit, we get 107 new staff, and I think we got 5 or 6 mental health specialists that are the discharge team. So we're going to have a really big discharge team to do discharge coordination for clients. So I know there was a question about it, and at this point, we don't know how successful it is because we're really developing it. And with COVID, it really stopped everything. You know, it's hard to tell because, you know, CBOs couldn't come in. So we were trying to help link. It's just been a challenge. But I'm confident that if we have a discharge team that has a Voc Rehab person, can help get housing and, you know, link to case management with medication and treatment, that some of these guys are not going to keep coming back in.
I've got a couple of new questions here. Do you work with BACS, Bay Area Community Services, in their reentry programs?
We do. So the Felton reentry program was previously the BACS reentry program. And then the contract came up and I think BACS didn't want it, or I don't know. I stay out of that stuff. But BACS, so Felton has that. We used to work a lot with BACS. We still do work with BACS, just not as much because that program, the reentry program, was how we worked with them the most. So yes, we do work with BACS though.
Okay, the other question is, have the 107 new positions been filled?
No. So the 107 positions are over 3 years. So we can hold that because I know it's within the next couple of slides where I'm talking about that. Okay, if we could hold that question.
Sure. And we're hoping to get your email address as well.
That's easy.
I have it. I can put it on the chat.
Yeah.
So let me
Pretty
see.
much anybody who works for Alameda County is their first name, period, last name at acgov.org. So it's ellen.dunn@acgov.org.
Okay. I'll put that down. Okay, we're caught up on the chat questions.
So I think a really vital part of discharging is the medications. So the kind of tricky part is we don't always know when clients are leaving. When we do know, the psychiatrist, we let the psychiatrist know. They write the prescription. There is a pharmacy at the jail. So either the psychiatrist lets the pharmacy know, or sometimes they'll write a prescription and send it to a CVS. And then WellPath makes sure that the client gets the medication in ITR when they're getting released. If they're going into a program, they can get 30 days of actual meds. If they're just leaving, not to a program, either going home or going somewhere in the community, then they have to pick up the prescription. Then the prescription gets sent to the CVS that they tell us to, and they pick it up there. So that's the, and sometimes we've found medication just in the garbage can. Some guys really take their meds when they're at the jail, participate in therapy at the jail. The minute they walk out the door, they throw away the meds, and it's, you know, and that's that, just until the next time we see him. So I agree with whoever asked the question. If we have better linkages, hopefully that won't happen. So here's just some roadblocks that we have been experiencing. Some of our challenges, again, it's staffing. We literally had under half of what we should have, of what we were authorized, and that was not even a third of what we should have. So hiring was hard. Retaining staff is hard. Discharge planning. At one time, we had a really robust team for about a month, and then people left, and it was just me and one of my mental health specialists was our team. You know, discharge medications. It's so often folks leave without their meds. Sometimes it's because we don't know when they're being released, and sometimes they just leave without their meds. Privacy, that clients are seen at cell door. So we're obviously not going to get a lot of what's really going on with them if the guy at the next cell is listening in, or the sheriff, a deputy. You know, the volume, I told you guys the volume, it's phenomenal, the need. Our data has been challenging to track. Appointments, you know, there's been times when our first appointment was weeks and weeks, if not a month or two down the line. You know, it's obviously it's a very depressing place to be. So the risk of suicide is very high. And then the clients who come in are often off their meds, they're coming off drugs, no treatment. It's extremely acute. And there's a lot of moving parts. But the good news is that the Board of Supervisors approved 107 new positions. So it's psychiatrists, supervisors, clinicians, mental health specialists, and clerical support. Some other things that have been helping us with hiring is that we contracted with Alameda County contracted with some personnel agencies for recruiting. So normally it's really people want a job, so they want to work at Alameda County, so they go through the whole HR process. But there's folks that just don't think to go look at a county. And these guys, the personnel agency, they went out into the valley. We've hired a few people from Modesto and Manteca that just never even thought to come over the hill and apply. Also, and I think it was a previous slide, is our staffing over the last year has been traditionally young Caucasian females coming straight out of college, you know, getting their master's and their work for the jail, for the experience. But as you also saw, the overwhelming majority of clients are men of color particularly. So with some of the recruiting that's been going on, and then we also got approved for a 15% footnote, which is on top of the base pay that all clinicians get, for the jail, we're also now, we just started like last week, got 15%. So prior to that, if I'm looking for a job and I get 2 job offers and one offer is in a clinic and I have my own office and I work Monday through Friday, or I can work at the jail where I don't have an office, I barely have a desk, or I share a desk, and I have to work nights and weekends, and it's exactly the same pay. The majority of people were taking the private office in a clinic. So 15% is, it's a tidy sum, and it's helping us get clinicians. We did start offering overtime shifts to any licensed clinician in the county. So they're coming in, they're helping us do some more assessments and filling some gaps that we need nights and weekends. So that's been really helpful. We also started weekly meetings with leadership with AFBH and ACSO. And so that's been really helpful, trying to identify gaps and issues and solve them with people who can make decisions. Just to avoid some of any of you guys who've ever worked for a county, counties are very big, bulky organizations, and they don't move fast. So that's been really helpful, and it helps our collaboration and our communication. We were also given access to WellPath, the medical provider's electronic health record, and we gave them access to our electronic health record. So again, it's more information on the client. So I can look a client up in WellPath's Core EMR and look, see, are they taking their meds? You know, we can, it's a really important, if we're assuming they're saying, yeah, I'm taking them, and then we look in Core EMR and it says they're only taking them 15% of the time. Now it explains why there's some symptoms are more apparent because they're really not taking their meds. So again, it's bigger information, more information, and gives us better pictures of the clients that we're serving. And when it's new, it's coming up, it's not here yet, but that we are going to have a panel with us, AFBH, and sheriffs to make decisions on some of these clients. They go into how.
Uh-oh. Can anyone hear me? Okay.
Housing
Yes.
and
Okay.
that they.
We lost you for a second, Ellen.
Yeah, I
We lost-
know. I saw that too. So I just really, this is kind of happening, that we're going to start looking at each client and putting them in the best housing for them.
So we lost probably about 30 seconds of what you said, and I can't tell if you're, okay, there you are, you're back.
Back again. I'm going to get off this screen.
I've got a bunch of questions here. If
go
this
for
is
it.
a good time. Okay, right. First question is, do you know how providers would help an individual who is in a traumatic environment and showing signs of increased mental health distress, such as the example you gave of someone who identifies as transgender and is put with a population of individuals that is the opposite gender?
So when we have had success with, especially transgendered folks, are when we've doubled our efforts to provide support, emotional support, because they're stuck where they're stuck in the jail. That is what it is. So what we've done is bring a team in, see them more often, so that at least, you know, a couple of times a week, there's people who can talk to them, can listen to them. If sometimes there's issues with underwear, you know, there's certain issues that we can advocate for. And ACSO is really good actually about working with us. They're really good actually about wanting to provide as much support as we can within the system that it is.
Okay. Next question. For inmates not responding well to meds while at Santa Rita, what is the process and wait for getting to Napa State Hospital?
So Napa State Hospital is more of a court process. It's like we don't put them on the list. It goes through the courts. So yeah, it's a process. If they're not responding to medication, and our psychiatrists amp up services, try different meds. Sometimes they go to John George, and actually they can work with them a little bit at John George, and they can come back stable, maybe on a different medication regime. So sometimes that helps. But the Napa process, that's a very lengthy process. But, I got nothing to say about that. It's just a lengthy process.
Okay. How safe is Santa Rita when someone who has an undiagnosed mental illness, who has a history of death threats to family members who are held in the main jail versus that person being on the streets of Oakland, homeless, either harming someone or being harmed due to the aggressive behavior? So the short version of my question, which scenario would be considered safer? I hope I'm reading that right. I realize that there are many variables to be considered.
Right. And, I can't really answer that. I guess what I can say is, as a staff person, Santa Rita feels very, very safe. And I do know if there's a fight, like if two inmates get in a fight, the deputies from all over the jail run out there to help out. And usually the fights stop fairly quickly. I would think, I guess only because of that gun violence that's so deadly out in the community, there's no guns in the jail that I know of. I've never heard about anybody getting shot in the jail. So I guess if I had a family member and I was terrified, I did have a family member and I was worried about her, and she came to Santa Rita actually. And I told my sister I would sleep easy for the first night because my little niece was probably safe for the first time in a long time. So, that's all I can say from my point of view. I was happy she was in jail. I felt like she was safer there than out on the streets.
Okay. A nice comment here. Thanks for sharing your experience. So thank you.
No problem.
That's really, we need to hear that perspective too. Okay, that ends that set of questions. Does anyone have, first of all, do you have more on your presentation, or is that's the final slide?
I think there's one, all of this stuff I've already kind of shared with you guys. I just want to make one other thing that ACSO did create is a team of deputies that are able to escort our staff around the jail. So there were times when we'd want to go see a client, and just because of things going on in the house and the deputies were busy, we couldn't get in. And so ACSO created a team for us that provides access so that we can get into the house whenever we need to. So I think that's a big change that we're really excited about. The other thing, and this is coming up, but we're creating a therapeutic community in the jail so that in the housing unit, the BHI house, to make it much more like more kind of an inpatient type place where there's levels of freedom. Again, this is we are literally creating it now. After the lawsuit, I think it'll happen. It'll just be slow. But I think if anybody has family members who are in and out of the jail and end up in Housing Unit 9 fairly often, this is going to be, I think this is going to be really helpful. I mean, it's going to be different. There's going to be murals on the walls, so it's going to feel a little more like an inpatient rather than a jail for our BHI clients. So that's just some of the changes. Here's the staffing. So you can see that in 2020, we're approved for 53 staff. 2021, it's 90. We have not hired very many. I think we've only hired a few off of that, maybe 5 out of the 47 or 37 that we were approved. Next year, there's quite a few more, 22 and so 32. And then the final year is however, whatever that number is, to total 159. So we're literally in 2020 going from 53 and in 3 years be at 159 staff. So that's really, really exciting for us. And all of the services are going to improve. This is my final screen. So we also created a new system of care. So it's all of the forensics. So that includes juveniles, juvenile hall, guidance clinic, adult forensics, the court programs, CONREP. And we have a new director, Juan Tyson. And then Yvonne, who was here 3 years ago, she is an assistant director overall of the outpatient. And then we have the outpatient, we have our inpatient, and then there's going to be a new focused on reentry. So this is brand new, and that's kind of how it's being reorged. So I think we're really hopeful that it's going to help with stop that kind of cycle of guys coming in and out of the jail. Questions?
Okay, there are a couple here. What do you do if a mental health inmate refuses to attend court?
So we don't do anything other than encourage them to go to court. Usually if they keep missing court, I mean, the best intervention is you can't get out of here till you go to court. For some guys that are looking at prison, it doesn't really matter. So there's nothing we can do. There's things court does, but for the most part, again, we do have guys that do that don't want to go to court. Eventually they go to court. I guess that's what I would say. But we keep seeing them and we keep encouraging them.
So this next question says, would you be able to make your PowerPoint available?
I have to ask. That's above my pay grade. But if I can, then I will.
Okay. Very good. Does anyone have any other questions while we kind of wrap up here?
I'm grateful for this very important presentation.
Okay. So at this point, I wanted to mention, if you haven't seen it on your chat, we will be posting this presentation on our YouTube account, and I gave a link to it for anyone who's interested. We have a couple of other general meeting presentations already up on YouTube. And I also want to mention that the next presenter will be in August, and that will be Lynn Gardner, who is the Youth and Family Services Manager for Horizons Family Counseling, which is a division of the Livermore Police Department. And she'll be talking on trauma and the impact on mental health in children and teens. So if any of you are interested in attending any future meetings, we will post the Zoom link on our website, and you're welcome to contact me, and I will put that in the chat. And it's stamped on almost every page on our website too. So it's Marcia at NAMI-TriValley.org. And I think I've got that right. Okay. So Ellen, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you come back another time, maybe sometime next year, and update us on how everything's going, and you'll have a full staff. And so I'm already getting some positive feedback from your talk, and through other means, text and so forth. So I just want you to know that we do really appreciate that, and do let us know if we can have a copy of the PowerPoint.
Well,
But then again, for those who are requesting it, we will have this talk on posted on our YouTube if that's a good plan B, I suppose. So I want to thank you all for spending your valuable Monday night, and I hope that was helpful for all of you. And I'm gonna sign off here, and maybe I'll see you next time. Thank you.
thank you. I want to thank everybody too. Thanks for all your support for. I
Thank
started
you.
out as a parent partner many years ago. I was a peer, so NAMI has a special place in my heart. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.